Good evening. Namaste, Yogita ma'am first. Thank you
Hello.
for accepting our invitation and being a speaker of this day, Psy Interviews. We have been uh, conducting these interviews every Friday, 5:15, to empower the psychologist. Basically, the idea is that, and we also want the general public to understand the psychology behind few things and knowledge of some therapies also.
Mhm.
So we're very happy to have Yogita ma'am today. For the students who are listening to us, let us understand. It's a very big introduction about madam, but I thought it is my duty to uh, introduce her to you. So, um, Mrs. Yogita, she's a psychotherapist and she's a TED speaker, trainer, image consultant, and she's the co-founder at Rationally Yours, training manager at Morphic Minds, an affiliated training center of Albert Ellis Institute. And she's also trained from Albert Ellis Institute. And for me, she is the best uh, teacher and trainer for CBT and REBT because I've been attending her training programs. So she has completed her associate fellowship from Albert Ellis Institute, New York. She has also completed her advanced REBT certification in children and adolescents from again Albert Ellis Institute, that is from New York, USA. And in addition to that, she also completed her teaching supervision in cognitive behavior therapy, Philadelphia. So um, she is a certified trainer from ICBI, that is accredited to NABT. So the introduction goes on and on. But for me, ma'am, you are the very humble and very effective teacher because you make the concept very simple and you make the learner very comfortable. That is
Thank,
for me.
thank you so much.
So
That is so
welcome to
sweet of
this Psy
you.
interviews. And today we would love to understand, learn, and also experience the knowledge and your expertise in CBT.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And a little exaggerated introduction. You all have been, always wonderful to listen to me. So that's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, ma'am, it was from heart, ma'am. It was not from paper. It's true. Whatever I said, we are live, but still I say it's like
Thank
it's
you.
true.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again. And then we'll have the questions, ma'am, to tell you. We'll take some. We'll continue with the question answers, and then we'll take some questions from the audience also.
Sure.
To begin with, ma'am, generally whenever we look at CBT, people read about it a lot from Google nowadays, and it has become very fascinating to uh, talk about CBT. Any mental health problem, then let's say CBT, CBT.
Correct.
But there is no concept clarity for many of the doctors also. So we'll have to listen from you. Basic concept clarity. What is CBT?
Okay, sure. So as you rightly said, we hear CBT quite a lot. Like every book, every treatment protocol, every disorder you will read about, last paragraph would be recommend CBT, recommend CBT. Even psychiatrists, they write that. They prescribe medicines, they write recommend CBT. So we obviously are aware of the term CBT, that is cognitive behavioral therapy. A simplified version of this is if we just break down these three words, cognitive behavior therapy. Therapy means a professional conversation where there is an expert on the topic and there is a person who needs help, and there is a working alliance between those people. They work together to work through a problem. So that is therapy. Uh, Cognitive and behavior. Cognitive is the thought aspect of the problem. So every problem, it's not how many people think that my problem is because of this XYZ person. if only this person would not have done this, I would have been okay. If only this situation would not have come in my life, I would have been okay. That's the general perspective. The cognitive behavior therapy talks about the cognitive aspect, like what kind of thought processes are there that leads to an emotional disturbance. So apart from the situation definitely has a role in triggering the problem. Like it may cause some distress, but how much distress? How do we respond to that distress? How long are we going to stay in that distress? That is there in our control. So CBT helps us work through the problem by working on the cognitive aspect, meaning how we are looking at the problem, what kind of perception do we have about the problem, and the behavioral aspects as well. So what are we doing? Some kinds of behavior, they help to solve the problem. Some kind of behaviors, they go totally opposite. It doesn't help us solving the problem. Instead, it adds to the problem. So we also analyze those behaviors that can work, that can be changed towards solving a particular problem or achieving a particular goal. So looking at the cognitive and behavior aspects of a person to work on an emotional or practical issue. Okay. Even if there is a practical issue, our right mindset and right set of behaviors, they increase the chances of a proper resolution to a problem. So this is, in short, cognitive behavior therapy, where the basic principle is that it is not the situation that caused the problem. And, it's the way we look at them. So half of our problem is solved because situation, if you just keep on focusing on, this happened to me, that doesn't give us any kind of emotional responsibility. It doesn't tell us what can we do. We keep on focusing on the situation. If this will change, I'll be okay. So that mindset shift is very important in CBT, where we start to take emotional responsibility that this happened to me. Let me see what I can do on my part, cognitively, behaviorally, so that I can be more functional, be more happier, right? Or at least even if there are negative emotions which are inevitable, they shouldn't be unhealthy. That is the like a very short understanding of what CBT is.
Yes, ma'am. Very simply but specifically explained. Ma'am, I mean to say the way you perceive the situation should be changed. It's not the situation because we cannot change the situation.
Mostly, yeah.
And cognition is the main thing which needs
Yes.
to be changed. So, in a layman understanding or in general public understanding, we call this cognition as a thought process
Thought
or
process.
the
Correct.
thinking, how
Correct.
we think about a situation.
Hmm.
So again, ma'am, this is one more word which is very tricky, and we cannot explain in general. Explaining the thought is very tough. And if someone asks in a clinic also, if we ask someone to log the thoughts also,
Hmm.
putting the thoughts on paper is very tough. Very
Correct.
tough. They cannot actually make the thoughts recorded.
Hmm.
So how do we understand a thought process of a person, or
Hmm.
basically, what do we mean by the thought process?
See, thought process is the internal dialogue, or you can say the self-talk. And you are right in terms of people having a tough time recognizing the thought process simply because, as I said, excessive focus on what is happening around. So people are not in touch with their inner self, but more so focused on what is happening outside. So a very simple example, even if, say you are driving and somebody, they overtook you and that they are driving rashly and your instant reaction is anger. Now you would think that, oh, because of this person, I got angry. Now your entire focus is on that person. You miss out what am I telling myself about his driving. So if you start asking questions, so this won't come instantly. Even in our therapy training, clinic, when we talk about you need to understand what you are thinking, and people would say, no, no, nothing came to my mind. They say that, it happened instantly. And we always say that none of the emotional reaction or behavior is instant. Imagine, let's just take this road driving example. You got so angry that, for some reason you are carrying a knife with you when you are driving. and you're so angry that you just stab the person, would that happen? Right?
No, no,
That won't happen.
that won't happen.
Mostly, I hope it doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen only because there is some kind of thought process. You may hurl abuses, you may yell at that person, but even if you have a knife, you won't go instantly stabbing that person, because every action there is a thought process. But we let ourselves go with the flow in that situation, and we let ourselves lose that focus on what am I thinking right now. So if you simply start asking this question to yourself, I got angry, this person did overtake me badly, what am I telling myself, what am I telling myself? So how we ask other people, what do you think, and then they clearly tell you, okay, this is my opinion, so they can say that clearly. But in that situation, if you develop a habit of, I felt this, what was I telling myself when I felt this? So a regular practice, it is not a one-time thing, but regular practice, self-awareness will help us be in touch with our thought process more. And then eventually, yes, you will realize. So the first step is realize that these things are not automatic. They are instant because they are very well practiced. So it feels that, instantly you reacted in a particular manner. But then why didn't we instantly stab? Because we do think. Okay. That's the simple understanding that will open the window of there is always a thought process. Let me be aware of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like being aware of yourself and, understanding the internal dialogue all the time.
Yes. Yes.
As if we are looking in the mirror and looking at us. So it's like you look inside. You look
We look
inside.
inside. And we should know that, there is, as I said, there is always a thought process. So people get away by saying that, no, I was blank. It may happen. It's not like they're lying, but it's because of the lack of practice that, we rarely sit with ourselves and notice our thought process. Even when you sit with yourself and you want to just go through what happened, you will see that you are focusing on then this happened, instead of, oh, then I thought like this, then I thought like this. Even the reflection is only about situation. When you are angry, उसने ऐसा बोला, उसने ऐसा किया, ये हुआ, वो हुआ. So that reflection has to change in terms of what am I telling myself. Yes.
Um, and it's a continuous process. This thought thinking is a continuous process. Ma'am, is there any maybe now I'm getting this question. People say that stop thinking about it. Why you're worried so much? Stop thinking.
It's a good
So
question.
is it possible to stop thinking?
Not at all. I think most of us will agree that it's annoying when we hear stop thinking, because we can't stop thinking. The brain is
Yes.
like a machine that goes on. Even when you're sleeping, there are dreams and whatnot. So I don't know when does it stop, So I stop thinking is never a solution. In fact, it puts us in pressure of, okay, it's easy to stop thinking. Probably I am the only one who's not stopping the thinking. Modifying the thinking, changing the thought process, refocusing, all those things, like refocus your thought process, change the thought process. That would make
But
sense.
we cannot stop thinking.
It will be a problem if we stop thinking. Everything that we are doing is an output of our thought process. So even if we are having a conversation right now, is because we are thinking something.
Yes, yes.
It's simply impossible to stop thinking. Don't
Because
worry.
thinking
In
is
fact,
part of it.
yeah, I'll add to that, because these things. Another principle of CBT is reality. Like, it's absolutely realistic. It doesn't expect us to be happy all the time. It doesn't expect that a person would have a positive emotion at the face of adversity. And I've had so many clients, and I would say very honestly, like, first session is pretty basic. We'll get to know them. We tell them about our therapy process and everything. But just the basic psychoeducation, when I don't tell them to think positive, I'll help you be positive. A very common feedback that I have gotten is that I'm feeling relaxed, that I'm not pressurized to think positive. Right? This is the takeaway for them. And honestly, I do that, like, as a therapist, it's the minimum when we say that this is the basic philosophy of therapy, that it's human to have a negative emotion at the face of adversity. We will learn to manage that negative emotion. This is what we teach them right from the first session. But those who have been living with this suggestion all their life, that you need to stop thinking or you need to think positive, you need not to worry. Their biggest concern when they come to a therapist is that the therapist will also tell them to think positive. And this is one reason why there is so much resistance. Have you heard like people saying, "Kya batayega therapist mujhe? Meri problem solve ho jayegi." And they say that suppose a person has failed and somebody is suggesting therapy. They would say, what would a therapist tell me? Is this going to change my situation? Absolutely not.
No.
Right? So they think that, we are going to help them feel happy about, wow, I failed, which is obviously not the case. But the misunderstanding that therapy is all about positive thinking. Positive thinking is, never, I'm not saying it's not good, but stressing on that and thinking as if only that is our solution at times creates more problem. So, and in the similar line goes stop thinking. So the brain is a very good, efficient machine. We need to just redirect it in a way that it helps us rather than hurt. And that would be more doable rather. So it's like an engine. Imagine it's like a vehicle which doesn't have a brake. Okay. But we can control the speed. We can control the direction. So if it is going in a direction where you don't want to go, okay, we can turn the way around. So just hypothetical vehicle which does not have you shut off the engine and you're done, but the accelerator is in your control, the steering or the handle is in your control, and you can put it in any direction that you want. That is sales, and that is what we learn in CBT.
Putting
Yes.
us in the right direction.
It's putting us in the right direction. At times, changing the acceleration, like thoughts can be very disturbing. So all the mindfulness techniques that, the third wave CBT, it has integrated mindfulness, probably slowing down, even with the thought process, it helps. But if you have, also read about mindfulness, it helps us slow down. It doesn't help us stop the thought
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
Slowing down will help you observe it slowly, and then you can redirect which direction I want to take. It will help you to learn to take pauses. So these are the things that we can do instead of forcing ourselves to stop thinking. Our brain is so funny. If we tell them to stop something, that is all it is going to do.
Exactly.
It's a rebellious teenager that way. The moment you say, don't do this, that's all it is going to do. So that won't help.
Right, right. Rightly said, ma'am. As we have the opposites in the world, when we have black, we have white. When we have day, we have night. When we have good, when we have bad in the world. So, as similarly, there is a negative thinking and positive thinking part of the brain. There is
Negative
it's not.
thinking, I would add,
It's a natural thing. What I mean to say.
absolutely. It's natural and it's, imagine a continuum. So it's not negative and positive, but a range of negative thoughts and range of positive thoughts. So it's just instead of black and white, imagine all the gray areas in between. That's where we want people to be in. So many times when people come to us, that's what they expect, that right now I'm in negative mindset, now I'll be in a positive mindset. That may not happen, but there is a range of negative thoughts. If they're in an extremely negative end, which is not helping them, there is a range where we can work upon. And all of this range, to add to what you said, it exists in our mind. We just need to learn how to, harbor those kinds of thought process.
Ma'am, coming to the next question, generally we have general mental health issues like anger, low self-esteem, or mood off hote hai kabhi. So these are like general day-to-day issues. And we also have severe mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or bipolar. So according to you, ma'am, generally, this is a question for many of the counselors sitting here. For which sort of issues CBT is suitable and for which sort of issues CBT is not suitable? Is it like this?
It is, And it's not like very much, I would say, demarcated, very clearly demarcated, but still if I attempt, because cognitive behavior therapy is a form of talk therapy, it requires the other person to be conscious and fully aware of the thought process. So even if you haven't learned CBT, the participants in the group, just to help you understand the visual. So if Dr. Geeta and I am talking, and she's my client, I would ask her questions. What do you want to work upon in today's problem session? What were you thinking in that moment? So she has to be in that zone where she can actually coherently reply to what I'm asking, isn't it? So low motivation is fine, resistance is fine, all of those things, obviously, then we need to apply our skills to help the person through that. But if there is incoherence in the discussion, like let's say she just can't comprehend what I'm saying, that's where there is the CBT is limited, because I'm relying on the client to reply to me appropriately. So wherever there is incoherence, which is mostly, I would say, in psychosis, where the person is not aware of the day and the time and the they just can't catch a line of thought process and reply in the same manner. That's where CBT is challenging. It's challenging to apply CBT with them. Other issues, even the clinical ones, where a person is severely depressed, or they have schizophrenia, but there is also a comorbid depression or anxiety. And they can, when they don't have that hallucinations and delusions, they can talk to you. You can at least help them work on the secondary issues. So schizophrenia is more largely, there is a biological component to it. And we cannot treat through CBT, and especially not only through CBT, but the comorbid condition, especially any kind of major mental health conditions, it's very likely that they will have comorbid depression or anxiety. At times guilt of, I'm not there for my family, and at times there could be shame. So these are the emotions where as a therapist we can work, but the only condition would be the consciousness. Like if the client is conscious, the client is coherent, the client can talk, that is where we can apply CBT. Gets a little tough when there is psychosis. So we need to make sure that the client is not having an attack when they are in the session. For example, bipolar. In bipolar, as you know, there are phases. There is a mania phase and then there is a depressive phase. If you have seen a client in mania phase, they just don't stop talking, right? They talk a lot. They are extremely confident. These all are the symptoms. Now imagine if a person is extremely confident, mania, that happens, right? They feel they can conquer the world, endless talking, and they are not in the zone to just pause and listen and give coherent replies at times. So this time, here CBT can become challenging. But when they are at a depressive phase of bipolar, that's where therapy can be absolutely helpful. So you also need to recognize what stage and which phase of the problem the client is coming in. When the schizophrenia is at its peak, probably the CBT, it may not help as much. But as the client is starting to recover and they realize that probably whatever they might have thought about, that was a lie, and it can come as an absolute shock to them where they may find it difficult to recover. That's where CBT can help. So it's not like yahan work karega, yahan nahi karega. Which stage of the problem they are in, okay, how they are feeling. And as I said, the most basic criteria is if they can talk coherently during the session, you have some scope where you can help them with whatever, limited resources or functionality, but we can always help them make it better.
Right. So it's for all the issues, but stage or phases need to be, we should be conscious about it.
Absolutely. Broadly, we say psychosis, it is a limitation. But as I said, even in psychosis, which stage they are in, if they can talk, we can have like that little window where at least we can motivate and educate them about the problem. Yes.
So again, there is like many a times we see CBT therapists ask for a notebook and pen. You should come prepared to write your thoughts or reframe your thoughts. So a lot of writing work will be there. So,
Hmm.
is there any constraint, like if uneducated person
Intellectual.
comes,
Huh.
or a child comes, or
Hmm.
someone who is like, you know,
Hmm.
cannot read and write? So, how
That's not a
CBT will work?
challenge, actually. That's not a challenge. Although writing is preferred in CBT, we would like a client to write the thought process, at least the coping statement. So it definitely helps, but it's not mandatory. So this, what you're stating, it's a very common concern that people have, especially once they learn when they do the basic. That's where they have this question. Once they learn the advanced, they understand that, okay, it is not limited. It's only because there is so many questions, as I said, right? That how are you feeling? What were you thinking? Can you write it down? Can you ask this question? All of that. And then we ask them to write, which is helpful, but not limited to that. So when it comes to those who are not educated, those who can't write, those who can't, or say children for that matter, um, play therapy, like including playful ways. So the basic goal in CBT is cognitive restructuring. Like we ultimately, be it through writing, be it through play, be it through any kind of stories, dialogues, anything. The ultimate purpose of CBT is to help the person learn, think differently, restructure their thought process. Okay. If you can follow the steps discussed in the therapy training, that would be amazing because that would help you seamlessly go through the thought process. At times, if you are finding it challenging, you should only focus on how do I help this person to think differently about the problem, right? How do I help the person to think a little more in a balanced way? Now, same thing that we can do with children, through the means of cartoons or drawings or something. So you can utilize all of that. For those who can't read and write, try and talking to them in their language, like whatever profession they are into, helping them, like if somebody is a farmer, let's say, how do we help them see? I'll give you a very simple example. CBT is all about responding to the same situation differently through the way of thinking differently. Now, a farmer would be able to relate that if it doesn't rain, okay, it's a very common problem, especially in India, that rainfall is an issue and farmers, they do suffer because of that. You have seen people, facing lack of rains, lack of water, and then have you seen people responding differently to it, right? There must be so many farmer friends of yours. Tell me how all of them they respond. And that could be a simple understanding for them that, yeah, not all of them are equally upset. Some of them have started their side business of something which is not dependent on rainfall. But how did they come to that? Because they were not thinking that they are helpless, this is the only thing, or they didn't just sit and crib about the government policies or something. They chose different means. So you use their example, but you help them see that even if you all are going through the same problem, you all are not reacting in the same manner. That is the essence of CBT, that you go through the same problem, but it's not necessary that you always have to react in the same manner. You can choose to react differently depending on how you are thinking about the problem. So even the point here is that even if somebody who cannot write all in their life, if they have done farming, they don't know English, any regional language, just this basic understanding will give them a perspective. So we should be creative in that way, that we don't have to make it all jargon language. It's the thoughts that influence the feelings, that influence the behavior. So for somebody who understands English, it is fine. But then for those who don't, it is not a limitation if we work on keeping it easy. That is the goal. So to answer your question, CBT is not only limited to those who are educated or who have high IQ, even people who are intellectually limited, there are ways how we can super simplify the CBT, help them understand the concepts. We have to obviously change the gears in terms of how slow we are going with the process. Small steps, but slowly educating them, it's absolutely possible.
Right. So when you say the destination is same thought restructuring, but the vehicles are different. So
Absolutely.
as we use different, ways as pictures or games or play or material, anything we can use, but the end will be thought restructuring.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ma'am, again, one more concept clarity. Our counselors and many people were asking me question when I posted your this thing session, cognitive distortions, because the three questions in one question. One is just what is what is cognitive distortion? What are they? And is it okay to have them? Or is it a problem to have cognitive distortions? And how to identify? All in one, ma'am, as considering the time.
Yes, it can be answered together. So I'll start in any order. First of all, if you have a thought, it's a possibility that there could be a distortion in it. Okay. So just like if we have a body, it's not going to be a perfect body, right? We always find some kind of, oh, I'm not liking this, I'm not liking that. That happens. Okay. So, but that is what makes us human. Okay.
Yes.
So it is not a problem to have a distorted thinking. What is distorted thinking? Distorted thinking is anything which you take a situation and it is perceived through your own filters. You have a filter of your belief system, your experiences, and it's going to be perceived like that. Okay. As long as it is not interfering with your goals, it is not a problem. As I said, it makes us human, right? So if I look at this mouse and I have a certain perception about white color, let's say, so I would be like, no, I'm not going to use this thing, for example. Now, it is driven through my belief system that everything that is white is not good. Those who know CBT, it's a distortion, right? Everything that is white is not good is overgeneralizing. Something that I didn't like, I'm saying everything that is white is not good. Okay. So when I'm overgeneralizing and when I'm not using this, now if I have to, manage this meeting, this is mandatory. Now that will become a problem. But for example, if I am choosing a dress, coincidentally, I'm wearing something in white. But let's say when I'm choosing something, I'm being given an option of white and I'm not choosing white, I don't like white. Everything that is white is not good. But here it is not interrupting with my goal. It is not interfering with my goal. So that's okay, where, it is fine. That's my preference that I don't like white, right? But if I'm being too rigid with them, no, nothing white, right? And if I'm given this and I'm like, I won't do the meeting unless this is some other color. Now that's a problem. Okay. So having a cognitive distortion is human. We all have, to some extent, to varying intensities, I would say we have, cognitive distortions because we have belief system. All of us have a belief system. All of us have an experience in life, how we perceive things. So we are not going to always take things literally as it is. But when it starts interfering, we must learn that my perceptions are now interfering. So now I need to pause and evaluate and get back to the balanced way of thinking because this is creating problem now. So many times we just go on with our life. We have certain ideas that we use them as preferences or something, but it doesn't bother us. It doesn't lead to any kind of emotional disturbance. And that's why it also doesn't come to the surface. It doesn't come to the notice, but some quantity, small, more or less, it's there. It's like probably, bacteria around us or, microbes that we have in our body. So we are going to have them. Sometimes when they are, too much and unhealthy, that's where it will cause problem. Or we learn to live with it when it's not interfering. So that is the way to look at cognitive distortion. Look at the overall functionality. Cognitive distortions, I'll first share the definition. When we say cognitive distortions, it is when you are not looking at things as it is. White is white. It is not good. It is not bad, technically. Okay. So that would be a distortion-free thought process. So it's not possible that every time we will have a distortion-free thought process. But we should be mindful that I'm trying to largely look at things in a balanced way. Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
So until and unless they are not impacting you or not, coming in your goals, in the way of your goal, then it's not a distortion.
Yes,
It's
we
okay to
cannot
have a
set a goal
distortion.
like my goal in life is to have a distortion-free thought process.
That
That
is
in itself could be a distortion, that I want my life to be free of distortions. Like that's an
that itself is
extreme.
a distortion again.
That's extreme, right? And it's rigid. And if you're saying I'm bad if I have a distortion, that's there you go labeling. So,
Everything, Mama.
absolutely. So just focus on going easy, do introspect whenever needed, wherever it is helpful. But don't be too hard on yourself that I want to be completely distortion free.
Yeah, some clients come and ask, please check my distortions. If do I have distortion? They Google and come. And so just this is very important. How to, as you said, that beautifully said, ma'am. We have all the bacteria or virus, but
Hmm.
some few things are okay to have. Uh,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
And we listen about thoughts, we listen about intermediate beliefs, and we listen about core beliefs.
Hmm.
And it's very tough. I know it's not a simple thing to explain, but if you can throw light on how
Hmm.
they are different and which comes after which.
Okay. So this is the technical aspect of CBT, where we say so far we have been talking about thoughts. That whatever emotional disturbance that we have, there is certain kind of thought process, and there is a distortion in those thought process, meaning that these thoughts are not, the situation is not perceived in a balanced way. It is distorted. Hence, it's leading to unhealthy negative emotion, if we put it that way. Now there are layers to these thinking. Okay, some thought process, they are directly accessible. So for example, you were expecting, suppose this meeting to go on for half an hour more, and it's ended abruptly. So if your expectations, instant thought that would come like, oh, what's this, that would be your automatic thought. Then comes, now first I'll tell you which one is more accessible. So Dr. Geeta asked about the sequence. In terms of access, automatic thought is the first one that you can access. What is this? That would be your automatic thought. This is not done. That would be your automatic thought. If you go further, you will identify certain rules. If you have committed for this much duration, it should happen that way. Now when you start talking, when you start to analyze, this is my rule, that if somebody commits something, they must follow it. If I commit something, I must follow it. These rules, attitudes in life, that is called as intermediate belief. What is this? Was an instant thought. It was driven through an attitude of, if somebody has committed for something, they must follow it. Okay. Now that's the intermediate belief. And core belief is like, it's at the core, as the word suggests, it's at the core. So it can be access wise, it is the last one, that probably it is, you are, there are three types of core belief we say in CBT. So you are labeling core belief is the way you look at others, the way you look at world, and the way you look at yourself. So probably when you are angry, it's largely when you look at others in a certain way. That, for example, you are putting a label on them that they are incompetent. If somebody has committed something, they must do it, or else they are incompetent. When you come to a generalized tag about others, you will see that you will largely see people as, not right away you will say they are incompetent, but through layers, if we kept on, peeling off the layer, it was, what is this? This is not done. Somebody has committed for something, they must follow it. If they don't, they are incompetent. First automatic, then it is intermediate, then it is core belief. Now, if I talk about, this was the sequence in terms of access. In terms of operation, it is the opposite. So when you want to understand, we are 41 in the group right now.
Yes.
So all of them, you are not going to have, oh, this is not done. Some of you could be concerned, what happened? I hope everything is okay. No? Now that thought process, that's the different thought process, because probably the core belief, the way of looking at others is different inherently. If you inherently are not looking at, oh, people are malicious, they are doing it deliberately. So if you don't have that core belief, your intermediate belief would be also something different. The automatic thought would be different. So it's the core belief that drives the intermediate belief, which is our rules and attitudes in the life. And that rules and attitude will decide what is going to be your instant thought. Okay. And it's very interesting to observe. Like you notice your reaction, your somebody else's reaction in crisis. Suppose if you see an accident, or not even an accident, a simple power cut at home, or in public place, and you will see suddenly all kinds of different reaction. And try and analyze, somebody who's like, oh, this government is like this only. Early they have the core belief of everyone is bad and people try and take advantage of you. And somebody who is going like, okay, this thing can happen. They have more acceptance of hassles can happen in life. So this is largely driven from how we view others, self, and the world. And according to that, we decide rules and attitudes in life. If you don't yell at them, they are not going to get the work done. Now that's a rule, that's an intermediate belief. But the core belief is that people are inherently malicious. Now all of these are distorted because they are extreme, right? That a person cannot be entirely malicious or incompetent. People are complex. But having one way of looking at people or others or self, simplifying it to one quality, that is where we say it is distorted. So distorted thought process is not just automatic thought process. Automatic, intermediate, core belief, you will see distortions in all three of the layers. And because distortion simply means moving away from reality, not having a balanced thought process, having a rigid thought process, all of these things would qualify as a distorted thought process. So if there is a distortion, you will see distortion in all three of them.
All three layers we see that.
All three layers.
And it's not one after the other. We look at, when you look at from the access part, it is automatic thoughts are coming. But
Yes.
From the other end, it is core beliefs from where actually these are coming.
Exactly. So if you look at the like what is the engine, the core, that is the core belief. So CBT, it gives you the liberty. It helps us go to the core belief. But even if you work on automatic thoughts, it helps. That's the beauty of CBT.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes it helps.
Yes.
One thought restructuring can actually completely give a relief to the clients.
Correct. Correct.
Ma'am, and there are two. There is again some confusion in the psychologists. What is CBT? What is REBT? And sometimes we call RECBT. So is it same? They are different. How they are different? And one more question would be in this only. Generally, people think like, is CBT came from REBT or REBT came from CBT? Like which is first? Which one is the originated first? So this is a lot of confusion, and we don't actually find a good proper information anywhere, ma'am. We just wanted that.
I understand it, and it is a confusion. I may have to get into history for this a bit. What we are calling CBT right now, we are actually talking about Beck's cognitive therapy, right? The one that is developed by Aaron Beck. Okay. So, and this gives simple answers. There is a lot of technicality into it, but cognitive behavior therapy in itself is an umbrella term for many other types of psychotherapies, which follow the same philosophy. So REBT is a part of that broader CBT, not Beck's cognitive therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy means all kind of therapies which focuses on cognitive and behaviors. Okay. ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. It also focuses on cognitive and behavior. DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, focuses on cognitive and behavior. MBCT, all of these things. They focus on cognitive and cognition and behavior. So CBT is an umbrella term for many other therapies. REBT being a part of that CBT. Beck's cognitive therapy is also a part of this. So many a times, because in our field, when we talk about CBT and REBT, there are two, main figures, Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck.
Yes.
So we confuse CBT with other generalized CBT with Beck's CBT. Beck's CBT is even more specific. Okay. What we practice, or rather what I have learned and I practice, is Beck's cognitive therapy. And the names, they have evolved over the years. So, the more research that happens, so initially it was called as cognitive therapy, then they realized that there is behavior as well. So we want to add behavior aspect of it. Same thing happens with REBT. So initially it was just RET, rational emotive therapy. Then they also added behavior to it. Now they are also adding cognition to it. So this is not a mixture of like Beck's cognitive and REBT. It is rational emotive cognitive behavior therapy. Because it is a part of CBT, they have refined it to RECBT. So this RECBT is no different from REBT that you might have learned. The nomenclature, it evolves over the period of time. I hope that answers the question, but
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
want to add
Yes.
more, you can ask.
Yes, ma'am. It's again, we need to get into history and understand it's a complex thing, but shortly, we understood that REBT is a part of CBT and Beck's CBT is a part of, comes into umbrella term.
Exactly.
Ma'am, again, people have a myth or assumption that when we go to CBT therapists, they ask us to write the thought, they do the restructuring. This is the only thing happens in CBT. CBT means thought restructuring. Is it true? Or do we, do many other things also? As you were telling, story involves, activities are involved, planning something or, action planning for something. So skill teaching is involved. So
Absolutely.
it's like generally people have this misunderstanding that cognitive behavior therapy is only thought restructuring. I want the counselors to understand this.
It goes beyond that, as you said. Beyond, simplified, we say the ultimate goal is cognitive restructuring, because it is assumed that once your thought process are restructured, you are going to respond differently. You are
Yes.
going to do problem solving differently. You are going to approach to the skill problem, skill deficit differently. So probably, that's why many speakers or even books, if you read, they stop at saying the goal is cognitive restructuring. But say you have learned to think differently, but there is no change in actions. It's obviously insufficient, isn't it? So the actions, say for example, somebody is working on anxiety of elevator phobia. Okay. And now they say, yes, now I'm thinking differently about elevators. Now I don't think of them as scary anymore. How will I know that? Unless and until they don't get into the elevator, I won't know that their elevator phobia is worked upon, isn't it? So restructuring is, we closely monitor restructuring with behavior change. We closely monitor restructuring with how they are responding to crisis. So they are saying, no, I have accepted that people can behave any way they want. Every time a problem comes up, they are responding in an exaggerated manner, means that the acceptance has not truly happened. So what I would say is that we just not have to learn better words in English. That's not the goal. So what you're saying, many times people end up saying, okay, this is how you talk, that things can be gray, not just black and white. So they have learned a very good statement, right? But if it is not followed in their lifestyle,
Yes. Not
if they
applied.
not, absolutely. So it goes beyond, in a way that we expect that once there is a cognitive restructuring, how you deal with problems, how you respond in crisis, your behaviors, everything is supposed to change,
Mm. Yes.
right? If the behaviors are the same, if your response, your instant response is the same, then the restructuring is probably, you have learned about it. And many a times, especially no personal attacks, but I myself have gone through it. So I would say that many therapists, we get stuck here because we know about all kinds of distortions. I know, no, I'm not getting into all or nothing. No, I'm not demanding. But essentially, it is seen the same thing in the behaviors.
Right.
So we become very careful with using the words, that I won't overgeneralize, but my behaviors would say. So I'm saying, no, I understand white is white, it is not good or bad, but still I'm not touching this.
Right.
Then we'll know that there's some problem. So cognitive restructuring is the ultimate goal. but not at a surface level, not at a language level, but at a deeper level. It must change the way you are approaching the problem, behaviors, response. That would be a proper CBT. So it's much more deeper than just don't think like this, think this.
Right. So to change this, as you said, it's not only changing the thought process or restructuring. It's all about getting into action or using into your life, day-to-day life.
Hmm.
To generally we sit in the therapy for 45 minutes or 1 hour. Then what? So
Yes.
CBT focuses on doing something at home.
Yes.
Is it part of CBT? Maybe this
Absolutely.
is also very important input for the counselors.
We say the real therapy begins outside the cabin. So there is a misunderstanding that 45 to 50 minutes we are doing therapy. You're learning for sure, but the real therapy happens outside the cabin. Just like I have used this example endless number of times. Like it's like exercise. You go to the gym, you see all the equipments, and you get the knowledge. Like this is called as pull-ups, and this is called as lat pull, leg curl, leg extension, whatever, leg press. You got to know all the terms. You saw all the exercises, how it is done. That won't help you to build a muscle. Or if you are going once in a week and with the help of a trainer, you are just doing those exercises for that period only, once in a week, that also won't give you the result. So just look at it like exercise, that if you're not going to practice, you are not going to build that muscle. If you have to build the muscle, you must consistently practice, and practice your trainer, your teacher is going to tell you how to practice, right? But how in school we are used to, even nursery or below, that teacher used to teach us standing line, sleeping line, but then she used to move ahead and she used to give us the homework, right? That you do this repeatedly. So if you remember, all of your homeworks were repeated. Write it 10 times, one complete page of just sleeping lines, standing lines. Slowly we started to reduce that repetition, and that also affected the learning. So if you are not going to repeat it, you are going to lose it. Any skill, music, if you want to learn, right? So many teachers, like they will teach you this is how you practice, but they always talk about ghar pe practice karna hai,
Correct.
right? Without which we don't develop the skill. So many times people think that I'm coming to therapy and that will help. It will give you knowledge. It will give you all kinds of therapy terms. Okay. It can also give you insight. But if you really want a good change, okay, practice is something that is indispensable in the form of homework, repetition. I cannot emphasize this enough. Even if you want to do a school-like homework, write this 10 times, that would also help. You may think it's too childish. It helps. If you just write life is not all black and white, it's gray. Life is not all black and white, it's gray. There are gray areas. You will see a shift in your attitude. So homework is something that should be given because that is what will really help the client.
Yes. Now, after this, using a lot of mobile and this technology, online journaling is going on, and we are,
Hmm.
able to give the homework in the WhatsApp
Hmm.
groups. So we
Hmm.
are trying to make it more, accessible to the
Technology,
counselor.
and we should do that, like be creative with assigning homework. It should not be just written, but something that we can practice, something that we can, how Dr. Geeta is saying, use technology. We can be creative. Only one thought that you can keep in mind when you're assigning homework is that how will this client remember what we have discussed? Like, how do I put it into practice in terms of behavior? So keep that thought with you when you want to assign the homework. So don't get stuck with they have to just write it 10 times or, be limited to that. As I discussed, the ultimate thing is the behavior change. If that doesn't happen, even writing it 10 times won't help.
Yes, 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 ma'am.
Yes.
So, ma'am, when the client comes in the first session, we have two couple of questions, ma'am, with your permission, two last
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
So, how do we assess the progress, ma'am, after your therapy? How do
Hmm.
we, understand that the client is progressing? And what measures we use to evaluate the effectiveness of our therapy?
That's, many times it happens that multiple ways of doing it. many times it may happen that your client is still feeling low. And as we were discussing, the goal in their mind is probably positive thinking. So you are already seeing a lot of changes, but they are like, ma'am, I'm still feeling low. So, going by what the client is saying, one is one way, but that shouldn't be the only way, because they are the client. They may still have distortions in their thinking that either I'm perfectly fine or there is something wrong with me. So along with clients' feedback, which is extremely important, there should be some kind of testing, right? Simple, even if you want to include BDI, BAI, Beck's depression inventory, it's a very quick one. First session, what were the scores? After 5 sessions, what are the scores? So another one is testing. Third is observable changes in the behavior.
Right.
Okay, so if you do see a change in behavior, next, with client's permission, you can include family members and ask for their observation, any changes that they have noticed. Just be careful when it comes to seeking a feedback from the client or a family member. They can get into all or nothing thinking. Ma'am, abhi bhi aise hi kar raha hai. So they are doing many things right, but like say a mother has come and the screen time has reduced, the child is reading, but not to the satisfaction of mother.
Yes.
So she
They are
may
not.
come, yeah. So she may come and report, ma'am, that yeah, he's studying. So we need to catch to that slight, yeah, he's studying at least better than before, but and then they go on. So then that's where we have to be, objective, that she's also getting into perfectionism. I need to emphasize, great, at least now the duration has increased, right? So these are multiple ways of how we can check progress.
Ma'am, last question.
Hmm.
Um, how was your journey? What
Mhm.
what is the career path you took and how you became this CBT therapist? Like for a budding psychologist for watching it, who will be watching it, to become a CBT therapist. So
Yes.
what we should do.
So to be very candid here, it was not like my childhood dream. Psychology is something that we were not told that it is an option. Sadly, I would say, it's either science and doctors or engineers or CA or something. I was in a science stream, so that helped. Psychology is something where other people, someone from a commerce background, eventually they can also change their path. But having a science background, it helps because, neurobiology and neurochemistry and those things, it helps. So I was into biology. I used to like that and everything. So the journey, I'm not like going to go in extreme details, but I'll come to the CBT part. So when I stumbled upon psychology, it was definitely very interesting. And the first thing that I got to know about in psychology was REBT and CBT. And I always give credit to my mentor, Dr. Shishir Palsapure. Attended his training. I was very intrigued by, this seems nice. Went on to attend more workshops. Then, eventually, once I attended the workshop and then decided that I want to continue further my studies in this. I never there is a lot of confusion when it comes to multiple therapies, especially today. There are so much there is so much to do. But what helped me here was exploring one therapy. So, and I still say that, so if you would ask me about any other therapy, I don't know. It has been almost 10 years now that I'm practicing, and CBT and REBT is all that I have learned. And it has never happened that I've got stuck because of, oh, I don't know this therapy. So the idea is to keep practicing, getting your therapy supervised and get into the depth of it. So learning a bit of everything will give you somewhat of, okay, if somebody will talk to me about what is, I don't know, I won't even name all the other therapies, but what is this? Oh, I do have some idea, but I didn't want to get into, I know everything, or at times out of anxiety, we get into that what if this is not solved through CBT? And that's why I'm saying there has been all these years and I've never been stuck as such because of, oh, if I knew about this therapy, I would have done it. So that has happened. But talking about the journey, good amount of training has really helped me, where I went on to do with Dr. Shishir, I attended workshops. I went on to teach alongside him. So not just learning, but when you teach therapy, it really helps you deepen your understanding. So lucky to get the chance early in my career that I started to teach CBT. Then the other international exposures and everything started to happen. The trainers used to come down from New York to India, and the exposures, the virtual exposures. So I attended many trainings, but I didn't change the format. So, CBT about anxiety, CBT for children and adolescents, REBT for children, did everything. But I took my own time because we also have to practice in between. If you don't practice and you just keep on learning, the biggest problem that I have seen is the confidence that, you never feel confident enough. And that will only happen if you start practicing. Do not think that I'll do everything and then I will start practicing. Yes, we need to make sure we fill the basic criteria as per our legal system that must be there. But other than that, the moment you learn something, try and put it into practice, then go to deeper understanding. So that has been my journey. Like even when I was a professional, I have attended workshops, and I would still do whenever I see something nice, I do attend. So there is no stop where I would say this was my journey and now I'm done. So I'm still learning, and that is how it should be.
Yes, it's a continuous process.
Is a continuous.
Yes.
And one thing that I would emphasize is highly emphasizes on getting your therapy supervised. I know it's extremely scary. I've been through that process n number of times now. The fear is not there, but the associate fellowship program from REBT that we have done, we had to submit about 30 tapes to 4 different supervisors. And it's, you're recording your session, somebody's going to listen, give feedback. The process is daunting, but it really helps us grow as a professional. So wherever you get a chance to learn proper therapy, structured evidence-based therapy, and where there is somebody to give a feedback to you on your sessions, preferred real-time sessions, if you get a feedback, that will really help you grow as a therapist. So do not shy away from practicing. Do not shy away from getting your therapy supervised just because you are getting anxious.
It's really scary, ma'am, as you said. When someone is listening, but it's required.
Absolutely.
There is no other way. We need to get the supervision.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And we'll take only 1 or 2 questions because we're already running out of time. Ma'am has given good enough time. So 1 or 2 questions, and later, um, if you are really interested into CBT, always ma'am is there to mentor you or guide you or train you. So
Absolutely.
there is so much of scope to learn from her. I think she has given enough number of enough time for us. So only one question, ma'am, will take. With emotional past baggage, I think, uh, baggage, CBT therapy will help, or how to,
Help such people.
help this, yeah.
So we deal with past in a way that, as I was talking about core beliefs, these belief systems are formed from our past experience, along with many other things. Past experiences are a part of our belief system. So when that core belief system is restructured, the past experience is restructured. So it's a good question. People think that CBT is here and now means that we don't focus a lot on the past. CBT is here and now to mostly at the beginning, so that the client learns basic structure, basic understanding of CBT. But it is pretty deep. It is not superficial. Once you learn it properly, you will see that it does address the past patterns as well. So the intermediate belief, the core belief, they all reflect our past experiences somehow. And if there is a past trauma or something, the treatment protocol is different. Where we do treat past differently, but yes, CBT can help such people.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I know the questions will be coming up, but we will not take the questions. I
Always,
forward.
if you have any questions, you can email it to me as well,
Yes,
or you
yes.
can connect Dr. Geeta and she will help you understand.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
And
much.
We wish we'll have this sort of enlightening sessions with you, and we want all these psychologists, budding psychologists, come and learn from you, CBT.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
we wish
Thank
to
you
see
for
you again.
having me. Yes.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, ma'am. Namaste. And
Yes.
thank you all for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye.